On this episode of Star Trek Universe Podcast, we are talking about one of my favorites, Next Generation's Unification 1 and 2, right after this.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe Podcast. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David Z. Robertson.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, man?
Not much. I'm just excited to talk some more Star Trek and drop a new track today. Pretty pumped about it. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, I'm pumped because this is really one of my favorite episodes.
That's interesting.
Growing up, this is one of the only TNG episodes I had on tape because I had taped in countdown to the last eப்படுde of Next Generation. They aired a marathon of viewers' choice Star Trek episodes. People had voted, and it was hosted by Jonathan Frakes, and it ended with a documentary called Journey's End. And I taped all of that. So for a really long time, all I had as far as Star Trek episodes that I could watch on repeat were those episodes, and Unification 1 and 2 was on that list.
Wow, that's interesting. Just because this is later in the run, so I'm surprised you didn't have more tapes before this.
Yeah, I didn't get on that bandwagon until much later.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's personal information. Yeah, Dave was a big collector of these episodes before you could buy them on DVD, and tapes were prohibitively expensive for one episode. Dave would follow the TV guides and record every episode as it came on, or every rerun as he could, so he could get every episode on tape. You did that with a number of shows, actually, right?
I did that with Andy Griffith, MASH, Mission Hill, gosh, I don't even know. Batman Animated Series, all of the Superman Animated Series, Justice League, Batman Beyond, all that stuff. Yeah, I did it with a whole bunch of shows.
That's neat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dave was a binge watcher before binge watchers were a thing. At least had the ability that most did not. Yeah, man. It's cool that you love this episode. It was not my favorite episode. I think it's really good for what it is. For just an episode. I mean, of course, having Spock in it is major points, and Spock is great in it. Sarek is great in it. Picard is great. Data's great. But yeah. The story was a little lacking in my mind. I kind of expected more, I guess.
Upon this rewatch, I kind of went, well, that was a little, I don't want to say thin.
No, I would say thin. I would say this episode is thin. So, I mean, not to put words in your mouth, but I would jump on that bandwagon. I think
that's the thought that came to my mind, but I didn't want to say it.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's one of your favorites. I get it. But I think I'll jump on that grenade. I think this episode, it kind of, there's a lot of weird wasting time in this episode. It feels like this episode could have easily been a one-parter. There's not enough. I've been watching a lot of TNG lately, and they do insane plot-heavy stories all the time that they fill a ton in 42 minutes, And this one felt like 4 things happen, and it's it's an hour and a half, and it's good. It's great. Like I said, the acting's amazing. All the people are great. And that's I guess I don't mind that the plot is thin, in that it's a character piece,
Well, even Michael Piller said that second part, he felt like nothing happened. It was just a lot of talking.
Yes, but also that's the only place where you really find Spock.
Yeah, and I think, I know when I was a kid, the annoying thing for me was that I just wanted them to get to Spock.
Right. I mean, this episode is fan service of the like Greatest Order. This is
Well, it was partially created to tie in with Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Countries release, which came out about a month after this episode aired.
that's neat.
And Nimoy said that he thought that they had an interesting story that they started in this episode, and he always expected. He said for a time he expected to get a phone call saying we want to pick that thread up, and then no one ever called him, and he said he didn't bother to get in contact with them about it.
Well, and they kind of pick it up in Star Trek 2009, and they're going to continue that same Romulan storyline in the new Picard series. So we're going to get a little more of it. But yeah, I also, and I just got done watching, oh gosh, what was it? I just got done watching an episode called Defector, maybe? I'm not even sure what it was called. Anyway, it's one where they put Deanna Troi into Romulan makeup. And,
that was...
and kidnap her.
The Face of the Enemy, maybe?
That sounds right. Face of the Enemy. And they mention Spock in that episode, and then they mention how he's still working there, and the defector has a message from him, and I was like, oh, goodness, they do a little more with Spock, and it turns out to be a fake. And I was like, oh, never mind.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah.
But I think, like, what my problem wound up being is initially I thought then, and the reason I want to pull back from it is not just because I love Spock and I like the episode so much, but really it's because that's not my actual issue with it. My actual issue is they did so much. It feels like it was all too easy. Like, it's like, oh, well, we have like Spock on Romulus and he may have defected. Well, guess we're going to have to call in a quick favor from Galron, and suddenly we're on a ship, and now we have the prosthetics on, and we're on Romulus, but we can't let them know we're here, and then, we're back on the Klingon ship, and now we're just on Romulus without the makeup on at all, and now we're kidnapped. It's just like it all happened very quickly. Very quickly.
Like I said, I'm watching a ton of TNG, and I don't think this is quick in comparison to other episodes. They often do that, where they'll be like, oh, we're talking to a Ferengi ship. Oh, that leads us to a Cardassians to talk about. And then it's not nearly as sit at one planet as the original series was. You know what I mean? Very often they do these sorts of episodes where they sort of trot around the galaxy doing lots of different things that lead a story together. And I really enjoy these episodes. Maybe it's because of the episodes I've been watching. I've been watching the sort of larger scope, two-parter type Picard-centric episodes.
And, you can, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong. Like, the original series did stuff where, things would be wrapped up in an episode, but the episode itself would take place over the course of a month or more. Sometimes,
there's definitely true of some episodes, but I don't know about two. I don't know about how many.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it happened. Especially like the episode where Kirk winds up on that planet and sort of loses his memory and gets integrated into that tribe. I'm pretty sure that takes place over the course of 2 or 3 months.
Right.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it was several months that took place over the course of, I want to say Paradise Syndrome, where Kirk has lost his memory. He's on the planet with Miramani.
Right.
And they think he's, the whole thing is a real bad, Native American stereotype.
Sure. Also
a lot of cool mythology in that show. A lot of preserver stuff, obelisk stuff that you can link back to preservers and stuff. So anyway, I'm just saying they've done episodes where, over the course of the entire franchise that take place over the course of months, it just felt like in Unification, this all kind of went a little quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. We don't know how long it took. And obviously he had to go to Vulcan and then to Romulus. So I don't know how far those two are apart, but it could have just been the way it was edited, seemed to account for time.
It seemed like it was just like right around the bend, man. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, but that could just be the editing of this episode, the way that, sometimes they want you to feel like something has urgency. So they cut out the travel time. Also, I just watched an episode where they where they were attacking, and the Romulans were attacking Vulcan, and they did. It felt similar, so maybe those, and it makes sense. They're obviously similar. They have the same ancestors, so they would be from the same part of space. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's dig into Unification. How about that? What do you have a summary?
Yeah. Let's see. To the Federation's surprise, Ambassador Spock has traveled to Romulus. Fearing he's defected, they send Captain Picard and some of his officers on a covert mission to determine why. On Romulus, Picard and Data meet with Spock, who claims to be trying to reunite the Romulans and Vulcans. While Spock works to achieve his goal, powers within the Romulan government seek to pervert his mission into an invasion of the Federation.
Nice.
There you are.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. The Sarek stuff, all the Sarek stuff, which I think is really the meat of this episode. This episode is about Spock's father dying.
Yeah, I love Sarek.
Yeah, me too.
Or more accurately, I love Mark Leonard as Sarek.
Yeah, he was really wonderful. Played to perfection, for sure.
Yeah, so why it's so hard for me to accept anyone else in the role, man. He's just so good.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's rough to see him with his I'm going to call it Vulcan dementia, because I can't remember what it's called.
Oh gosh, I know this. Not Vindy. Pa something syndrome. I don't remember.
I want to say it is Bindi syndrome.
Is it Bindi? I've read it more than I've seen it on. Is it only in the books? Did they mention what it's called?
No, I think they called it out in maybe the episode Sarek, but
okay.
Yeah, it is Bindi syndrome.
Damn, yeah, I'm the best.
Yep.
Anyway, I thought it was fun. Him with Spock being on the run, and they also talked about Spock disappearing into the woods. I was like, that stuff they're referencing in Discovery when he also goes on the run, and they also talk about him as a child disappearing into the woods. Which
they're up in the mountains. That's just really referencing Star Trek the Animated Series.
Huh. That's fun. Mm-hmm. Interesting. So overall, I really like the crew in this episode. Sarek's awesome. The whole Sarek scene is just incredibly sad.
Yeah.
It's incredibly, incredibly sad. And we just got done watching Family, and this one ties together with that when Picard says, sometimes sons and fathers, and just kind of trails off.
And Riker says understood because, his own dad.
So yeah, I don't even know about his own dad. I haven't seen that one in a while.
That should be season 2, I think.
Okay. Well, I'll probably watch it soon then.
Because his dad had a relationship with Dr. Pulaski.
Okay. Weird.
But yeah, like Riker and his dad, Kyle, don't get along.
Okay. Yeah, so, it's just one of those universal things, fathers and sons, and it understood. That's all you needed. And it just draws in both of their experiences, but also, of course, Spock and Sarek's experience. And this whole episode was really nice with all the father and son, sort of drama that happens, and the lack of resolution, and that Spock never got, and he gets to have it through Picard. It's just really fun. Really well done storytelling. I love it.
And knowing Sarek's character from the original series, for me, it's really uncomfortable to watch him being so emotional and being, ravaged by this disease, and saying things like, talking about how he forbade Spock to go and he ignored me. I punished him. He endured it silently, but always he returned to the mountains. One might as well ask the river not to run, but secretly I admired him, the proud core of him that would not yield. Like, him saying that stuff and admitting that stuff feels like such a violation of the character. Like, and I know it was meant to be that. It's just, it just hurts to see him that way. It feels wrong. If that makes sense. Like, he's such a proud person, such a he's always been such a so resolute in his logic. I don't know, man. It's rough.
It is rough.
It's rough to see.
We get a lot of fun stuff with the crew of the Enterprise, though, like disregarding the father-son tragedy we're watching, which is really the meat of this episode. We get a lot of fun stuff. I love the way Picard handles the Klingons.
Yeah, did you recognize that the captain of the Klingons?
No.
On the ship, it was Stephen Root.
Oh, wow. No, I did not.
Yeah, good old Jimmy James.
Jimmy James in News Radio, and he's in Man in the High Castle currently.
Oh, he's in a bunch of great stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Of great stuff.
Just trying to throw out something current since I'm talking about something from 25 years ago or whatever.
Milton from Office Space.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that was awesome. But I just love Picard dealing with the High Council and just convincing Gowron to loan them the ship. I thought Picard was wonderful. And it really drew a line between Picard and Riker, because we've seen Riker in the past, and Riker, when he took command during Best of Both Worlds, he kind of kicked ass, right? Mm-hmm. But in this, that's him kind of having to deal with war times. In this, it's more diplomacy, and Riker is not the diplomat.
No, he's much more of a Kirk character.
Well, yes, but even Kirk can use guile and deception and when he needs to like get a political resolution if he needs to. In this case, you have Picard goes up against the entirety of the Klingon Empire, like the High Council of the Klingon Empire, and convinces them to give him a ship when they don't want to. And then Riker can't convince like a scrapyard to give him information. It's just such stark contrast.
Hey, he convinced that fat Ferengi pretty well,
right? Like
through
brute force and threatening, which to me seems like it's against like regulations or something. Like it just seems like it would be against regulations.
Nah, man, cowboy diplomacy.
Yeah, it's exactly what they're out to talk against. So Picard's just perfect though. When he's talking to the Klingons, he's humble when he needs to be, but he's also threatening when he needs to be. Mm-hmm. I just really enjoyed all the Klingon interplay with Picard.
Oh yeah. The only benefit to the Klingon Empire would be our gratitude. That is what you want me to tell him? Yes. And please add that if he is unable to provide us with a ship, then I'm sure there are others in the Klingon Empire who would be willing to help me. And then they would have our gratitude.
So good.
I see.
It's so good. It's so good. It's such a great threat. I love, so the Klingons they're obviously supposed to be the brave warriors, but I kind of love how they often show that that's sort of a facade. Mm-hmm. You know? And that they're actually in many ways more cowardly than the humans at times.
Oh, yeah.
I love when they're trying to discuss going into the Romulan, the Romulan space, and the captain's like, if we're captured, we'll be dead. And he's like, yes, that's right. And he's like, oh, well then I'm fine with it too.
Yep.
It's just so good.
Yep.
And Deanna gets immediately used for her sexiness. Mm-hmm. He's like, your commanding officer probably thinks that using a beautiful woman will convince me to talk or to give the information easier. He's probably right. It was so creepy. So creepy.
Yeah. And even knowing that they are using this handsome woman, as he put it, to get him to cooperate, he's still like, let me tell you all this horse shit about my life that you probably don't care about because I'm lonely.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. It's like, he just wants that companionship for a minute. It's so weird and gross and like setting women back 50 years from now.
Yeah. As if putting Troy in that awful jumpsuit wasn't enough.
Yeah, exactly. So another in this scene, they're working with the scrapyard. Another just Riker moment that is really bad. He unintentionally destroys a ship. He's just like, I feel like he's like really shown as inept in this episode.
Yeah, I didn't consider that inept because he told them he only wanted to like wake them up or whatever. He only wanted to scare them.
Well, exactly. That's my point.
Get their attention, I think, is how he put it.
That's my point. And he shoots. He like doesn't realize that the ship's loaded for bear with weaponry. He knows that. He knows that fact, but he doesn't realize that a phaser blast will end up destroying it. And he does it anyway. And like he unintentionally destroys a ship that they need information from. It's just like another Riker screwed up moment to me.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. Like, initially, when he couldn't get the guy to, like, talk to him, and he was like, who does this guy think he is? It was definitely played for laughs. Like, every painful instance that the Worf is suddenly not a brave Klingon warrior, but kind of, like, beaten and made the butt of the joke. Mm-hmm. But, it definitely seemed like that. But, I don't know. I didn't take that instance as, making Riker the butt of the joke. In fact, from pretty much that point on, I just kind of felt like it was, we're going to see, this is us seeing what it's like with Riker as captain. Like, we're seeing the differences between him and Picard, because, like, he goes down to the planet. He does charm the alien pianist lady, who has lots of funny, horrible jokes about her dead husbands.
Yes.
And, he throws the food in the Ferengi's face or in his lap, and I would too. That Ferengi was a piece of shit, dude.
Yeah, Riker in the underworld is a real weird, like, first of all, I feel like that's some of the, like, very few glimpses of the Star Trek underworld that we've gotten in this era of Star Trek.
In that series, DS9 was a trip to that place every week.
Well, DS9, I feel like we got a lot of that actually in Enterprise. At least there were a few episodes where they visited sort of underworld type planets because there wasn't a Federation yet. So like everything was kind of like a free for all capitalistic society out there. Mm-hmm. And then you also get it a little bit in Discovery too. But at this time in the 90s or whatever, they just didn't have a lot of that. So that was kind of fun. But I still just think he, I don't know. He just seems to go around doing things that he's just a little too brash and a little too, he doesn't have Picard's ability to attenuate his aggressiveness versus political nature to fit the situation. It seemed like to me in this episode.
I think I agree with all of that. But for the first time in my life, after really watching that and thinking about it, I actually want a Riker series.
Huh.
I would have liked that. I don't think now. He's, too old. They're all too old.
I don't know. We'll see how Picard goes.
Well, I mean, especially if he's like, chilling out on a planet somewhere, retired, like with the kids and stuff. I'm like, that's fine. That time has passed.
But in 3 seasons, when Picard gets murdered by someone, he has to go out and avenge him.
Shut your mouth.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good, man. That when he goes and like gets Titan out of mothballs and goes gallivanting about the stars with his geriatric crew. He'll go full Kirk, man.
No, man. I don't need that.
My favorite scene, this entire thing, and I hate to say it because I love Spock and it's great to see him, but my favorite scene is just Picard trying to sleep while Data's trying to process information.
Yep, I love that. I remember that. Like, a lot of things from this episode stick with me, and I love the Klingon slapping that slab of metal and telling them that's how Klingons sleep. And I love how Picard is just like, "Shall be fine, thank you." It's like, "We do not serve Federation food." He's like, "Excellent. I've been looking forward to Gach."
Yep. I love Picard's just great. Picard knows how to deal with all these different species and all these different personality types just right. He just balances everything he needs to do perfectly. I love it.
Yeah, I love that, like, the Klingons are going out of their way to inconvenience them. And they're like, we're going to put you in a single room that's meant for one person. And Data's like, I don't need to sleep. That's cool.
Yeah. Then Picard can't sleep with him hovering. Just that scene, man, it killed me. And then he asks him to turn away, and Spock, and then Data does this wonderful turn away where he like keeps his eyes on Picard for just a little too long, and it's like a real suspicious look. Oh man, it's so good.
Yeah, like he's like, what is wrong with you? I'm just organizing my file. Oh my god. Okay.
A lot of great Data moments. Seeing Data talk to Spock and having a conversation about their differences was really interesting, and how Data is endeavoring to be more human, and Spock has sort of done the opposite, choosing to avoid being more human and trying to follow Vulcan logic. That whole thing was cool.
There was something of a hammy lead up to that scene that I absolutely loved. And I realized, like, you have to write the scene where Data and Spock talk about their, differing philosophies.
Yeah, for sure.
But how do you get Picard out of the room to do that? And the way they do it is they just have Picard, like, uncomfortably touch his ear and go, I think I'll take this opportunity to remove my ears. And just, like, walk away.
That's pretty great. That's a pretty great scene. Oh man, it is a good episode. It's really good. It felt thin plot wise, but it's all character, man. It's just a character episode.
Yeah, and it's a heartbreaking episode. I hate that Spock never got the chance to meld with Sarek.
Yeah, but it is a really nice moment when Picard gets to be the sort of way that some of those memories are conveyed. Mm-hmm. It's very nice. Very, very nice.
Like, Michael Piller had a problem with this being so talky, but some of the stuff that they're talking about, some of the lines that they say are so great. Like when Spock says, in your own way, you were as stubborn as another captain of the Enterprise I once knew. Mm-hmm. And Picard says, then I'm in good company, sir. Or, when he's accusing Picard of arguing like Sarek's points.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's the second time you've put another man, the second time you've accused me of speaking with another man's voice. Mm-hmm. And Spock says, curious that I should hear him so clearly now that he is dead. Like, oh gosh.
Yep.
Beautiful That's so
lines.
good.
There's really some really beautiful lines in this.
Is it so important that you win one last argument with him? No, it is not, but it is true that I will miss the arguments. They were finally all that we had. Yep. That's so heartbreaking, dude.
It's so heartbreaking. So heartbreaking.
I loved seeing Spock and Picard together, and I wish we had just gotten more of that.
Yeah, me too. I really feel like Nimoy would have been great as just like a regular recurring character for the last few seasons of this show.
Which would have been just like the cherry on top, because the show wasn't doing poorly in the ratings. It was like the top grossing thing ever. Everyone loved Next Generation. Everyone watched Next Generation. It was sci-fi Law and Order.
Yeah, and I mean, my parents watched it, and they're not really sci-fi people. Like, and that's how I got into Star Trek, was my parents just putting it on whatever. It was Friday nights, is that right?
It was Saturday nights, I believe. Okay. It was in syndication. I
remember sitting down with my parents and watching it every week, man. And I hated it at first, and then finally, like through Data and Geordi, like I really found my like way into the series, and then like really just started to love sci-fi in general. It's been a huge shaper of my consciousness, and just love this show.
Oh man, I love that dialogue between Spock and Kirk. Data and Spock, where he says, or Data goes, as you examine your life, do you find you have missed your humanity? Spock says, I have no regrets. Data says, no regrets. That is a human expression. And Spock goes, yes. Fascinating. Like, but he says it like he's like, damn it, you're right.
See, to me, it seemed like he was like, he was sort of saying that to Data. Like, fascinating, isn't it? Like, I found a way to navigate my two worlds, and I have a balance between them. And that's something that I think is interesting about this episode. Looking at it one way, it kind of feels like Spock's being a missionary to the people of Romulus, but knowing who Spock is and that he has kind of found a peace with his human side, and he doesn't try to avoid all emotion. He has sort of reached a balance, I think. and he at least learned to respect emotion in some way through his relationships with his friends.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think. I'm pretty sure Nimoy meant to do this. Nimoy seemed to have embraced. He brought an arc to Spock's character. He acted very logical in Star Trek VI, which he filmed right around the same time, or some months prior. But here, he has embraced more emotion. It's like he felt like, oh, it's been 80 years. I'm going to make this character more emotional, more grouchy. Am I crazy, or did Spock seem really grouchy? Actively aggravated that Picard and Data are there.
Yeah, for sure. I just kind of took that as like old man crotchetiness, and annoyance because he's trying to do his thing and they're in his way, and they're going to cause problems for him.
Yeah, but that's emotion.
Yeah. He's definitely a little crotchety. I agree.
I'm just saying he's like Nimoy wove in more and more emotion into his character, because if you look back on the original series, initially he was. I mean, Cage notwithstanding, he was purely emotion is a myth to him. It's not a thing that happens. And then over the course of the series, we see little bits of it peek out. He admits that he's half human. He's got emotions. They're all two sides constantly at war. Then he undergoes the Kolinar discipline, purges all emotions. So he's pretty much, save for, the reason he rejects Kolinar is because he feels emotion. He feels the great presence of V'ger. And he says he can't in good conscience do it. He can't accept the Kolinar. But he's still very, very logical. Star Trek 2, he had acclimated again. He clearly showed some emotion towards Kirk. He was, able to lie, etc. He dies. Star Trek 4, he's been retrained in the ways of Vulcan. We've got a reset button on the sort of what I've complained about with Data in the movies. They keep resetting it, taking away the emotion chip. That's what they did with Spock. They threw him into the past with Kirk, and because that's what would work best. Him being completely, straight man. And then over the course of the next two movies, kind of came back to, a middle ground, but still became more emotional and was willing to work with humans and understand the way they think. And then we jump ahead 80 years, and I feel like Nimoy really in a great fashion, he has this impatience with bureaucracy.
Well, it's not just the emotion. It's like his friends taught him to be more emotional, yes, but they also taught him, I think, to buck the system a little bit. Mm-hmm. And those are lessons he learned working with Kirk and McCoy all those years. And now he's, willing to go against everybody. Of course, according to Discovery, he did that a lot longer before that.
Yeah,
I know, different universe you say, but I thought that was interesting that this is about him, about the Federation needing to track him down, and then we have that same storyline in Discovery. So that was kind of neat. Mm-hmm. Kind of a neat correlation, at least, whether it's in another universe or not.
We get Sayla again, though.
Yeah, we do. We do get Sayla.
This is her last appearance.
Yeah, cool. I guess I'm not too upset about that.
I always wanted more with her. It always seemed like she was, she had a lot more going on behind the scenes. And then, I could have, a great way of getting Denise Crosby into the freaking movies would be to do a Sayla plot. And I always just wanted more Sayla. I was just like, why, and which is weird because Denise Crosby, forgive me, Trek fans, she's not the best actress.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
She's just not very good.
And I think Sayla particularly, she plays her very over the top. I mean, she played Tasha Yar over the top too.
Oh, yes, she did.
So, yeah. I've rewatching season 1. I can't decide whether they got rid of Tasha Yar because they didn't like the actress or didn't like what she was doing, or they didn't like how often she talked about the rape gangs.
Oh my gosh, dude. Like, I was thinking about that earlier today. I was like, I'm not going to say that on the show.
Yeah. I'm not going to
say I don't need to hear. I was just thinking, like, how different would TNG have been if Tasha stayed on? Because Denise Crosby, like, okay, to be fair, most everyone on that show was not, except for Picard, had not really gotten into their characters. They weren't spectacular.
Right.
But
season 1 is particularly rough. But
it can be.
She might be the roughest of the bunch, which is saying something.
Yeah, like, I understand if you grew up on a planet like that and perpetually had to endure rape gangs, you would probably be a little melodramatic.
No, I just can't.
Easily flustered.
I just think it's a thing that probably wouldn't. It seems it would be weird for them to put that on, a primetime television show.
It's incredibly tone deaf.
It is. Either one of two ways. Either you're the sort of religious right doesn't want to constantly hear you say rape on the sci-fi show that they think is for their kids, and then the other side of things that's more concerned with the actual act of rape doesn't want to see it trivialized. So it's kind of doing both at the same time. It's like constantly bringing up rape in a way that, like, just like, I kind of think her character was written problematically to the point that maybe they had to get rid of her.
It was this weird thing that was going on in sci-fi in the 80s where everything had to either be post-apocalyptic, where there were rape gangs, like in some sort of like dystopian future, or it's just like the normal city, but you found this really bad part of the city and now you're going to be raped. Like, there's always like this gritty, like, knife to your throat raping thing going on in the 80s where everything had to be super gritty, and it just feels incredibly out of place in Star Trek. It does.
I mean, and the idea was that they were freeing her from that. They had, I don't know, but yeah, you're right. It was a weird part of Star Trek.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to bring up about this episode before we get into quotes and trivia? And songs.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I think we've already said all of my quotes. So you got any other quotes?
I love when Riker told that Ferengi to use his sleeve or use one of their sleeves, one of the women's sleeves.
Yeah, use your sleeve or use one of their sleeves. I don't care. It's pretty good.
I liked Sayla's plan to I was just looking at this quote, how their unification will take on a different form, the Romulan conquest of Vulcan. I liked that plan. That was a pretty interesting plan.
Yeah. I didn't really understand how it was going to work. They've got like a couple of 3 Vulcan ships loaded with 2,000 soldiers. It's just, sometimes I'm just like, how many people are on these planets?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because it's like, can 2,000 people take Vulcan? I don't know, maybe.
They might be able to take the head counselor or whatever.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was a little strange.
I like the quote. Sayla says, "Excuse me, I'm just finishing up a speech for you, Mr. Spock. I rather enjoy writing. I don't get to do it very often." And Data says, "Perhaps you would be happier in another job."
Yeah, that's one of my favorite lines. I loved that.
For the crap I give Denise Crosby, when she kind of pauses and just looks up at Data, there was perfect. She played that perfectly.
Yeah, it's really
just
good.
Like that mild, annoyed glance, like.
It's very, very good.
Let's see. I think we pretty much organically talked about most of my all my other favorite quotes.
Yeah. All right. Well, what trivia? You got any more trivia?
Yeah, I've got some trivia.
Oh, I have one.
Sure.
Did you know that Spock is actually from the original series?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was a cool little tie-in that they did.
That is, yeah.
What's your trivia? What's the trivia you got?
All right, so this was being Ambassador Sarek dying was the first time that a major Star Trek original series character died. Not counting Spock's death in Star Trek 2.
Right. Not counting deaths that were shortly thereafter fixed. Because that happened a number of times in the original series, I think, too.
Yeah.
A couple people got brought back.
They... yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, they did. They killed Kirk.
Yeah, I remember them killing Kirk at least in the Ponfar battle.
Well, they didn't really kill him.
Right.
McCoy gave him a serum that simulated death or something. But
still,
crap.
On screen we see Kirk is dead. Oh no, he's not. I'm just saying.
Spock definitely reacted like he died.
Yeah.
All right. So in the episode Sarek, Picard mentioned that he had met Sarek during Sarek's son's wedding. And in this episode, he mentions that he only met Spock once. So I guess he met Spock at Spock's wedding?
Huh.
I want to know more about who Spock married.
Yeah, I would also like to know that.
I wonder if they meant that. I wonder if those are two separate instances in the writers' minds. If they were just like, why wouldn't Sarek have more kids?
Well, we know he did.
Yeah,
right?
He had Sybok at least.
Yeah, so it could be that son, maybe? Sybok, did he die in 5?
Well, he kind of died / merged with that god creature.
Maybe. Now it just feels like an episode of Rick and Morty where Sarek is Rick and he's going to visit, I don't know, going to visit some weird god creature that's been fused together with Sybok having a wedding to some other weird creature.
Yeah, Sybok's floating around. Goodbye, Moon Man.
He's marrying a tardigrade.
All right, so one of the shots showing the Enterprise D passing through the wrecked ships at the surplus depot, they are recycled shots from Best of Both Worlds, Part 2.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Or are they just ships from that battle?
Maybe so, man.
I'm just it's headcanoning here.
Yeah, do it. Now, these episodes were created in part to promote Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and that movie was released like a month later.
That's neat.
And but these episodes were produced after they shot the film, obviously. So this was Nimoy's final appearance as Spock for 18 years until 2009's Star Trek.
Wow. And
they mentioned the peace talks with the Klingons and the consequences to Kirk and his crew, and that was a direct reference to Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
Yeah, for sure.
The music that Riker played in the bar is Freddie Freeloader by Miles Davis. Here's a one that's really annoying. You know, Neral, the Romulan that was talking with Spock,
right,
and was tied with Sayla. They were in cahoots. Mm-hmm. He is mentioned in Deep Space Nine in the Pale Moonlight as being Praetor in 2374, and he later appears in Inter Arma Enum Silent Legis, but as a completely different actor who is way older.
Huh. Well, they tried all kinds of genetic testing. Probably some sort of genetic acceleration.
Yeah, who knows, man. They did ask Ronald D. Moore why they changed it, and he said, we did briefly discuss bringing back the original actor, and then decided to go a different way.
All right.
Which is really annoying to me.
Yeah, it is annoying. Again, it's weird aesthetic stuff. Aesthetic stuff doesn't bother me that much.
Yeah.
But him being of drastically different age kind of bothers me, but I guess if it doesn't affect the plot, I guess it doesn't really matter to me too much. But I understand where you're coming from.
Even though it is established in other episodes that Data's programming prohibits him from being able to use contractions, he inadvertently uses a contraction before giving Sayla the Vulcan nerve pinch, saying, "I've disconnected certain sensors to allow us to exit. I'm afraid I cannot allow you to warn your guards."
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Is that like a really rare thing? I always wondered.
It is a rare thing.
I wondered how well they kept to that.
Well, in the first, second season, I don't think they did very well.
Speaking of, we put out last week, we put out the Measure of a Man episode song where I wrote a song from Data's perspective, and I seriously considered putting no contractions in it. I tried to write it with no contractions. It's very hard to write music without contractions.
Yeah.
Like every line wouldn't work. I was like, because with contractions, the whole point is you can smush them together or take them apart depending on how many syllables you need to fill a line. And I was like sitting there writing, and I was like, all right, if I'm going to do one of these every week, I can't spend enough time to write this without contractions.
Right. And that's a great song. I really enjoy the song.
Thanks, man.
But I'm a Star Trek nerd nitpicker, but not a particularly smart one. So while I couldn't be bothered to actually analyze the star dates, that you have a line in there where he says, "I have served this ship for many years," and I went, it was second season. It could have been many years, 2 at most.
That's fair. It's fair. Well, he wasn't brand new to the ship in season 2, was he?
Well, I mean,
the only person who's new in the first episode is Riker.
Well, but the ship itself was pretty new, as evidenced by All Good Things.
Yeah, I thought about saying I have served this fleet for many years, but that was my thought later on. I was but I was, thought it made it more personal with the captain and everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of thought I knew what you were going for, and I didn't think you would care. I figured you would have caught it anyway.
I did.
If you really cared.
I did, but also I don't know when he started. Anyway,
that's all the trivia I got.
I think it's time to get to the song. Then we have a song about unification. The song's called Unification. This one I went for kind of a different thing, I guess, different stylistically and everything. But it's also, I guess, it's from Spock's perspective, just about trying to bring people together. It's generally about people with differences and how they might be able to learn from each other and come together. So it's kind of a, we are the world type thing.
Yeah, man.
That's not like a we are the world type thing. Anyway, hope y'all dig it. This is Unification. We'll be back with you very soon. Peace.
Jolan True.
Runs in both of our veins. Our fathers say that we're not the same, but I think if we try, then we'll both realize that a chance remains for peace. Unity, what does it mean? You don't have to be just like me. I think we can learn from each other. Then maybe one day you'll call me brother. Unity, why even try when everything seems to divide? Maybe we can both toss our pride. We're stronger when we stand side by side together. Terrible lines. Oh yes, we've been taught to mistrust and to hate, but our fates entwine. Unity, what does it mean? You don't have to be just like me. I think we can learn from each other. Then maybe one day you'll call me brother. Unity, why even try when everything seems to divide? Maybe we can both toss our pride. We're stronger when we stand side by side together. Can't get there, maybe our sons and daughters. If we can't get there, maybe our sons and daughters. If we can't get there, maybe our sons and daughters. If we can't get there, maybe our sons and daughters. If we can't get there, maybe our sons and daughters. If we can't get there, maybe our sons and daughters. If we can't get there, maybe our sons and daughters. If we can't get there, maybe our sons and daughters.